Hello, everybody. Welcome along to Sportsbet TV. Paul Alster here with you, and looking forward to days 3 and 4 at glorious Goodwood, which are the 3rd and 4th of August, the Thursday and Friday action. We're anticipating plenty of rain on Wednesday, so we're also expecting the going to be genuinely soft. Of course, you can never be quite sure this summer quite where the showers are going to hit, but that seems to be the forecast with a fair degree of certainty. Now, at the time of this recording, as of Wednesday lunchtime, we've had our runner on Tuesday who didn't do the business, I'm afraid. Lone Eagle, very well backed as it turned out, but in that extraordinary Goodwood Cup where Tom Marquand rode them to sleep, he never managed to figure in the finish, of course. And we're in the dark as yet as to what's going to happen to Love de Vega on Wednesday, our tip there. I've got a tip for you both for Thursday and Friday. Plenty of selections through the week, both at Glorious Goodwood and the Galway Festival, if you want to join me on the Patreon service at Out in Front, the link for which can be found just below this screen. Well, my first tip on this bulletin is on Thursday, good in the 4:45, the mile Bucciolati handicap. 20 runners are declared, soft ground. And initially, it looks a very tight mile handicap, but there's no doubt about it. The bookies are running scared of one horse. And that horse is Isle of Jora, trained by George Scott, who comes here in the search of a quick hat-trick after 2 recent Class 5 wins. The latest at Newmarket at the weekend when he went clear on the bridle and was eased down to win by a length and 3/4, but he was valued for at least 6, 7, 8, even 10 lengths. Now, he's got a £6 penalty here because he's running again quickly, but he's still well in with regard to his anticipated future mark. But he does take on much better horses. His 2 wins have come on conventional straight tracks, and there's nothing at all conventional about Goodwood. And his wins have also come on good ground, and we're expecting soft. He's usually ridden up with the ridden from off the pace, so that means that at Goodwood, unlike the wide expanses of Newbury and Newmarket, he's going to have to be ridden for a bit of luck for the gaps coming at the right time. But if all those things fall into place, then he may well go and win well, and possibly go on to even be a pattern race horse. He has looked very impressive, but this is a much higher grade, a different type of track, a different surface, and I think at 7-2 in a 20-runner handicap on very different ground to that he's encountered before, I think he's worth taking on. And of course, like most 3-year-old handicaps at major meetings at this time of year, there are a lot of horses who are potentially improving, and many of them improving under the radar ahead of the marks. So watching the markets will be well worthwhile to assess, if nothing else, then stable confidence. Now, a few to just keep in mind here include Novus, for the Gary Moore yard, who was second here on Tuesday on the opening day of the meeting. He ran very well, and if he's recovered from that, then he could go very well indeed on the testing ground. He handles it. While Can in the Rain represents Charlie Johnston, the Johnston yard always targeting the handicaps at this meeting, and he's a horse who'll go from the front, so should be able to stay out of trouble. Could be a hard one to pass if he's in the same form as when winning at Newmarket 6 weeks ago, and he's only gone up £2, and it might well be that connections have saved him, especially for this race. Now, among the remainder, the likes of Metal Merchant for Jack Shannon. He's got Ryan Moore on board and has been very consistent this term. The hat-trick-seeking Roaring Success for Roger Charlton is on the up, and he can't be lightly dismissed. And the likes of the previous course and distance winner Sky Soul for Marcus Dragonig, and the top weight Glenfinnan for Andrew Balding, who should be better, Glenfinnan, for his recent very promising reappearance run. There are others to consider. But my selection here is a horse to whom I've been drawn more than anything else because of the jockey booking, I suppose. This is Spiora Dalta, trained in Yorkshire by Mark Walford, a really good dual-purpose trainer, and the mount of Jim Crowley. Jim, of course, who gave Hookham that absolutely brilliant ride to win the King George. And for me, it's an absolute travesty that has been banned for quite a long time and fined £10,000. It's a disgrace. The new rules don't take into account just how much the horse is responding to the whip and whether the whip is being used correctly, which to me it was. Both horses were giving their all, responding to their jockeys in the King George, and I think it's an absolute disgrace that Jim Crowley has been banned for what was one of the rides of the year. Anyway, that's me on my soapbox. I'll come down from that. And what I want to tell you about this ride he has here for Mark Walford on Seeyouatmidnight is that a significant thing here could very much be that Jim Crowley is actually the brother-in-law of Amanda Perrett, whose Dream of Mischief runs here, and who Jim rode to victory last time out at Windsor. He's ridden the horse the last 4 times. So the fact that he's forsaken him in favour of Seeyouatmidnight is noteworthy, although it has to be a possibility that he may not have fancied riding right down at his minimum weight, down at 8 stone 9 on Amanda Perrett's runner, Dream of Mischief. The other factor that turns me on to Seeyouatmidnight is that he arrived here in good form. And that's after 2 wins in his last 4 starts at Nottingham and then at Chester. And both of those wins have come on soft ground. So underfoot conditions expected at Chester should suit him well. In fact, in 5 career runs on soft ground, he's never ever been out of the first 3. He's only gone up £2 for his Chester win last time out, and his draw in stall 9, fairly central, should be okay. So at 11 to 1 each way at the time of this recording for 6 places, Sky Better among those offering those odds. I think the Northern Raider Seeyouatmidnight for Mark Walford and Jim Crowley is worth an interest on Thursday. And then I'm going to take you on to my selection on Friday. I've been looking at the 5-day declarations, and I've come to a fairly early decision about this one on Friday at Goodwood in the 5:20. It's a 1 mile and 3 furlong handicap run on expected soft ground, and there are 14 runners. And yet again, it's another 3-year-old handicap, and the same comment applies to this race as to Thursday's highlighted race, in that plenty of these are going to be improving, tackling new trips and on a different kind of ground. Some will, some won't handle it. It's going to be very interesting to see how this race pans out. Now, there's no betting available at the time of this recording. So I'm kind of guessing a little, but I anticipate there may be plenty of interest in the Sir Mark Prescott trained True Legend, who carries a £6 penalty for a very comfortable success at Salisbury last week, over 1.5 miles on good ground. Now, he won there with plenty in hand, but this is a better race, and he's yet to prove himself on this ground. He may well go very nicely on it. We don't know. He's definitely respected. Now, the top weight is Intricacy, trained by Simon and Ed Crisford. It won on good to soft ground 3 weeks ago at Ascot, so it probably will handle conditions. And the only 2 horses that have run from that race since then have both run very well, finishing second in fair races, so the form has got a very solid look to it. Intricacy should stay the extra furlong, and I think he'll probably go pretty well off his £6 higher mark. Now, also on the score sheet is another last time out winner. That's Rafe Beckett's Balance Pay, who not for the first time, he seemed to appreciate the give underfoot when winning on good to soft at Chester over the extended 10 furlongs with a bit in hand. He's gone up £5, but having handled that track at Chester, where it's pretty sharp and you've got to be pretty nimble, he should cope with the undulating, sharp Goodwood track, and I think he'll be thereabouts. So he's one of the 3 previous winners, last time out winners in the field. Now, once again, handicap races at Goodwood, so Charlie Johnston has to be considered, and he fires 3 arrows at the target here. The stable jockey Joe Fanning is on the lightly weighted alumnus, who was beaten a short head at Newcastle last week and drops back a furlong. He's got Frankie Dettori on board, Loyal Touch, who steps up in trip here. And he's got Jason Hart riding the tough Perfect Play, who was only narrowly beaten in a decent race last time, and possibly is the pick of the Johnston trio. But the market will no doubt tell us more once they start to bet on this race. Now, my selection here is a horse that I think connections have been patiently waiting for the right ground, and his name is Nada King. He's trained by Sir Michael Stowden, is the mount of Brian Moore, and is a horse who has winning form on soft ground. And I think he's going to run a mighty race here. Now, he was an expensive purchase. He cost connections 340,000 guineas as a yearling. He's by Camelot, and is a full brother to a very useful Irish mile handicapper called Current Option, who revels on soft ground and is a 7-time winner for Ado McGuinness in Ireland. And Nada King, on only his second start, his final start as a 2-year-old, ran an absolute blinder in hindsight, in finishing second to none other than King of Steel, the Derby runner-up. And the horse, of course, finished third in the King George last Saturday. Now, he was beaten 4 3/4 lengths there by King of Steel on soft ground, but of course, in hindsight, that was an excellent effort. Now, he ran first time out this season as a 3-year-old back at Nottingham in April. He just scrambled home there on soft ground, winning a 1.25 mile maiden, despite possibly not being 100% wound up. But that was his first run of the term. He was entitled to improve for it. Now, since then, he's had 2 runs in handicaps. Both of them have been on good to firm ground, which may not suit him ideally. I don't think it does. He finished third, giving £3 to the subsequent Royal Ascot winner Burdett Road in a 1.25 mile Newbury handicap in early June. And then 3 weeks later, he was second to Galactic Jack when tackling a 1.5 miles on good to firm ground at Salisbury last time out. Now, I think that this intermediate trip of 1 mile and 3 furlongs should be absolutely fine for Nada King. The anticipated ground conditions are surely what he's been waiting for. The problem here is it's hard to assess the market. We've got 3 last time out winners. One of them is Sir Mark Prescott, improving middle distance horse, which bookies are normally scared of. So I'm hopeful that we may be able to get 5 to 1 each way for Nada King for 4 places, I anticipate, in this 14-runner handicap. And I can see him getting back into the winner's enclosure. If he happens to open up very much shorter, then I'll be just going for the win bet, and I'd suggest you do the same. But if he's 5 to 1 or better, then get on each way for the 4 places, Nada King, and keep your eyes out for when the markets open there. I anticipate there could be money for him. So those are my 2 free selections here at Sportsbet for Thursday and Friday at glorious Goodwood. Day 1 was a very tough day for finding winners. It could well prove to be the case throughout the week, so we're certainly looking at this race racing from all sorts of different angles. Favourites may have quite a hard time this week at the Sussex track, although I do think Paddington will be hard to beat in the Sussex Stakes, but he is a very, very short price, which we'd never consider. Anyway, that's it for this bulletin. I'll be back with my Friday evening bulletin, looking ahead to the final day of glorious Goodwood, and possibly with some selections for Galway on Saturday as well, maybe having a look at 1 or 2 other meetings too. Remember to check out my service at Patreon via the link just below this screen. I'll be back with you on Friday. Bye-bye and good luck.